Hey guys, it's Brandon, aka B.Rich Beauty, aka your beauty best friend, and welcome back to the channel! Oh my gosh, we're talking about brushes today. Do y'all have brushes in that makeup bag in your bathroom somewhere? And you're like, why did I buy this brush? What am I supposed to use this for? Yeah, I know, I got you covered. Today's video is all about brushes, how to use them, what brushes you need. So, you know what to do. Grab your beverage, haha, and let's get this party started. Let's go. All right. I hope y'all got y'all drink so we can drink together and talk about brushes, child. Let me take a sip. So, like I said in the intro, today's video is all about talking about brushes. So whether you have the exact same brush I have, or you have a brush that's similar, we're gonna talk about the type of brushes that you should have, what makes them different, and how best to use them for what you need them for. So for those that don't know, I worked for MAC Cosmetics for the last 15 years, and I am really, really fortunate that over the course of my 15 years, I've collected a lot of brushes. Like when I tell you I have a lot of brushes, I have a lot of brushes. And it's okay because I do makeup as a profession. But as also a person who wears makeup, I have a handful of brushes I keep ready on deck when I'm doing either makeup on myself or even my favorite brushes when I'm doing makeup on other people. So let's get started and go through some of my favorite brushes and why I love them. And yeah, so I figured we would start from like face and work our way into eyes, okay? So here's one of my favorite brushes. This is the 190 by MAC. Here's a little tip for you all. Synthetic brushes are non-porous, which means that they aren't going to absorb moisture into the fibers of the hair. Natural hair brushes are porous. Think about your own hair, how we have to moisturize our hair and we deep condition. That means because the pores absorb moisture. The impact will happen with the application and how the brush absorbs the product. So your synthetic brushes really don't absorb or hold product inside the fibers, okay? So what I love about this 190 though is it's so good for liquid foundation. Now, you can do this for powder as well, but the shape and the fact that it's synthetic makes it really, really great for liquid. One, it's flat. It's like a dome-shaped brush. So it makes it great because if you use a flat brush, you're gonna automatically get more medium to full coverage because the brush is laying on the product. So I'll give you an example. Foundation, liquid, a little on the brush. Look at the coverage and the application. Everything from this brush went directly on. So if you want a little bit more full coverage, if you like the shape of a paddle brush, like I do, you can get up underneath here and then you just pull your way down. Like I love a good paddle brush. Now, I have a lot of family and friends that love a big fluffy brush to do liquid. The difference is going to be, again, the amount of coverage and how much product your brush is depositing. So I'll show you. Foundation on the tip. So this is the foundation from the 190. Here's the foundation from the 187. So this brush is designed to buff into the skin and you see the difference. More coverage, less coverage. Now because this brush is fluffy, look how easy it blurs out the lines. So it effortlessly buffs and blends at the same time. Whereas, if I was to use the 190, you would have to, do a little bit more work to make sure you buff those lines out, but it's still doable. You're gonna get more of a diffuse airbrush look. You're gonna get more product, and it's going to be a little bit more precise in terms of the application with this. Now, what I love about this brush though, take a sip, is that these dual fiber brushes, these big fluffy brushes like this, are also great for working with powder. So you can go from liquid to powder just with this brush because it's gonna pick up the product and you can buff it in. I'm gonna have on so much makeup after this. And it buffs it in very light and nicely. So if you're looking for something with like a twofer, dual fiber brushes are great as a twofer. You get a 2-for-1. You get fun with a liquid and fun with powder. Who doesn't like a double hitter? One other brush that I love, and I use this personally on myself every day, is actually the 159. So the main difference here is obviously this is really, really big. And so the bigger the brush, the more surface area covering. So if I was using this brush all over, I'm covering a lot more surface area. It's going to shear the product out a little bit more. Obviously this brush is a lot smaller than this one, but I like it for my Studio Fix fluid, still liquid, because I'm able to be a little bit more precise, almost in the same sense as like the 190. They're very similar in shape, except this is fluffier. So I'm able to have, you know, more of a medium coverage and also diffuse the product out at the same time like this. So 159, 187 is murder, or the 190. These are some of my 3 favorites when I'm talking about doing foundation. And I just basically choose which brush I'm using based off of the effect. Do I want full coverage? Do I want real sheer coverage? Or do I want something that's a little bit more medium coverage? So if you have any one of these 3 brushes, you decide how you want to use it, but here you go. Now, if you're a person that likes to put powder on top of everything, here's how I choose my powder brushes. Here's the brush, the most surface area. So a brush this size, and this brush is real big, child, I would use for like loose powder, or if I want a very sheer wash of color of powder all over my face. You see how big this brush is? It takes up my whole forehead. So if I don't want a lot of product on, I'm gonna use a big, big fluffy brush. This is a brush you could take into like your décolleté with your body glimmer and shimmer. You can buff this out and move through here. Maybe a little bronzer all over the face. I wouldn't contour with this. I mean, unless you want like a bearded contour, but I would use this brush for powder all over. If you want to blush, you want to use a brush that's a little bit smaller. I like round dome brushes for blushes at times, or even just for powder. If I want to go underneath here, this brush is better than me trying to go underneath here, which takes up my eye. So this is great for powder even all over, bronzer, underneath in specific areas. You could even use this for blush as well. It's fluffier, so therefore it's going to deposit medium amounts of color, and it's a really great shape for your face. You know, one of the things, I should have said this in the beginning, one of the ways I kind of gauge which brush I use for different parts of my face is I like to do a finger test. And if you've ever seen any of my other videos, if I'm working in like a highlight area, is it a 1 finger size brush, 2 finger size brush? If I'm contouring, is it a 1 finger size, 2 finger size? If I need something that's going to be all over, I can go bigger, a 3 finger size, and then you do that, and you can match up your brush based off of the finger size test for your face. So 3, 2, 1, and we'll talk about this one too. So just giving you an example. When it comes to blushing and bronzing and contouring, all the above, here are some of my favorite brushes. This is the 168 by MAC. Oh, I love this brush. I'm so glad you asked why I love this brush, because I'm gonna tell you. First of all, it's at an angle. You can't beat a good angle, especially if you're a little challenged at times with placement. This helps to guide your placement. See how this works so nicely in my hollow, my contour, darling? And then you can use the tip if you need to sneak on up in here and highlight. And then you can use like the ball of the brush to go ahead and add your blush. And it's nice and soft. You too can also add blush with the 2 finger size brush as well. But I just love the 168. So for example, I would use this brush if I was contouring and blush. If I'm just doing powder and blush, I would use this brush. Does that make sense? I hope so. Take a sip. So you know, I wouldn't be your beauty bestie if I did a little contour and blush for y'all. So I'm gonna use the 168 to do that. So I'm gonna use my contour palette. Y'all know how I go. All the colors. But no, I'm gonna use the actual tip and go through, just the tip. And I'm gonna use the tip here, and what you can see is that I can sneak this in. And what I like about this is you can then rotate and use the ball of the brush, the wider side, and buff that out. And so because this brush is so fluffy, it helps to blend out really nicely. I'm gonna do the other side so I'm not walking around here lopsided, like so. And then just buff it out. I'm gonna take a little ambering rose on the belly of the brush. I'm gonna just load my brush, tap off the excess. And the great thing again about the way this brush is shaped, I'm gonna smile, start right on my apple, and I'm just gonna pull this back for a nice little soft flush. Now you could start back here and pull forward, but then you're gonna have less color here and it's gonna be stronger back here. Just a little tip for y'all. Love, love, love this. So this is the brush, again, great for contour and blush. My powder brush, I can take that. And if I want to soften any of this, I can just pop a little powder on top. But this brush is so good for blush and all over powder again. Ooh, a little hot spot there. There you go. You know, when we'd be makeup, honey, if we didn't get high lit, here are my two favorite brushes for highlight. A fan brush or this really like adult version of a blending brush that you can use for the eye area. I love these two. Obviously the fan brush is more than one finger size. It's almost like maybe 2.5. But because it's so thin, it fits nicely through here where you want to highlight, right? Also, the difference between the two would be this is going to apply your highlight very lightly. This is going to apply your highlight a little bit more opacity behind it. So I'll show you. I'm going to take my fan brush and you can gently lay it on and buff and blend in. Circular motions work really great with this brush. I'm gonna take a little underneath the brow. See how gentle that glow is? Ooh, you know I like to be a glow getter. On this side, we'll do the 240 brush. And same technique, we're gonna layer this in and we're gonna buff that. You guys see the difference already? Look how much brighter this is, and I haven't even blended this out yet fully. Fan brush, 240. You want a glow that can be seen across the street and the cheap seats in the back of the theater using Google Earth, honey? You use a 240. If you want something that's gonna be a whisper, you use a fan brush. There you go. Let's talk about concealers and concealing. So if you don't want to use your foundation brush for concealer, you can use smaller brushes if you want to like conceal underneath the under eye area or something fluffy if you're trying to like spot conceal. Oftentimes when I'm working backstage on like models, I will use like a fluffy brush to like dab on concealer and like tap, 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 so it's not really noticeable. So I'll show you the difference on the back of my hand. Obviously, again, same concept applies. The denser the brush, the more coverage, right? The fluffier the brush, more diffused it's going to be. See the difference? So you even have your choice. And what I love about a fluffy brush, we're gonna talk about this as it relates for eyes as well. I love using fluffy brushes for concealer underneath my under eye area and also on my eye with eyeshadow. Huda, 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 huda. I'm just joking. Y'all ready to talk about eyes? Let's talk about eyes. So what I know for sure is that it's easy to have a ton of eyeshadow brushes. You're like, what am I using this brush for? So I'm gonna show you a couple of my favorite brushes for eyes as well. The same concept applies true for brushes for the eyes. Fluffier it is, the more diffused it's going to be. The flatter it is, the more dense it is, the more product you're gonna apply. All right, so prep work. Eyeshadow primer, anything that you're gonna do to prime first, you have two options, either a flat brush or a fluffy brush. Again, choose the brush base that's gonna work best for your eyes. Don't use no huge brush, honey. If you got a small to medium eyelid, or use a small brush if you got a large eyelid. Like if you got all this eye real estate, why work harder? So if I'm working with more medium to larger eyelids, I like a flat brush that's gonna be a little bit bigger. And obviously I'll show you, like on my eye, it's a little big for my eye, right? It takes up more than, a little bit more than half my eyelid. But because it's flat, it's going to apply my product, especially if I'm using an eyeshadow base, I'll show you, with a lot more opacity. So taking it, and if I apply it this way, you can physically see the product there. If I use a fluffy brush and I apply underneath, side to side, you can see how much more sheer that is. So your fluffy brushes are going to diffuse and blend. It's almost like the magic eraser for your eye. Depending on what you're doing and your technique and your skills, sometimes I will apply my eyeshadow with a fluffy brush and also blend out at the same time. If you're feeling a little bit more confident, then you can apply with one and blend with the other. So it's not uncommon that I will apply with a brush like these because they're flat, and you can take your eyeshadow and your flat brush and you can apply it on the eye, right? And then you can take your fluffy brush and you can work with your eyeshadow. Not to mention your fluffy brush fits nicely in your crease area. So when you're trying to sculpt out your crease, ooh, like that, side to side sweeping motions helps to ensure that you're blending well. And one of the keys here when using a fluffy brush, start in the center so that way you can even out your eye makeup evenly, like this. Another one of my brush must-haves is a pencil brush. I love a good pencil brush. Maybe when I tell you using a pencil brush is the difference between signing your name with your makeup, between pencil and ink. It makes everything so sultry and smooth. Now it's a small type brush, so notice I'm saying I would smudge with this brush, I wouldn't blend with this brush. Baby, you'll be blending for days and you'll have nothing but lines looking like who done it, where, and why. Because it's tapered, it blends and diffuses as well. Ooh, look at that. See how that works? And your pencil brush just literally diffuses what you have. You can apply eyeliner and then use your pencil brush on top of it. You can go in with your eyeshadow on top of your eyeliner and diffuse, or you can use just eyeshadow to diffuse all together. And that's what a pencil brush is for. Speaking of lines, angle brush. Now an angle brush is great for either filling in your brows or creating liner on the eye. You can do a flat brush as well if you want to create lines. I like both. Obviously the angle is great if you're doing a wing liner. This is great if you want to get underneath and smudge as well, or if you want to stamp out what you're doing. So for example, I love to stamp right underneath with some black eyeshadow just to make my lash line on the bottom look a little bit more intense. It's almost my way that I cheat from using eyeliner, but I use powder instead, so it looks a little bit softer and not as intense. You can stamp right at the lash line up top as well. See the difference? Ooh. Voila. Stamping. This brush allows you to stamp. This tiny, tiny one here is great for liquid lining. If you're using liquid or gels and you want a very, very thin line, ooh, this is the 210 by MAC. Ooh, she's so good. And by the way, if you've missed any of the brushes as I'm talking about it, I'll put the brush names in the description of this video, okay? But you would take this brush and you literally can go right at the lash line because it's so thin. So if you're a little bit more of an expert with your eyeliner and you want a nice little thin brush like this, get you one. Get you a nice precise wing liner and just to line and frame your eyes. 210. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of our brush conversation for today. Which brush is which? I don't know, you choose, but I'm hoping this conversation helps you understand how best to use the brushes you have. Because you know your beauty bestie got you covered, boo. You know what to do. Subscribe to the channel if you like this video if you like this video, and leave me a comment. You know who loves you? I do. I'll see you later, guys. Bye.